Hello, everybody. I hope there are people joining me here tonight. We are here to discuss the PTE test, the Pearson test of English, and we're talking about vocabulary because vocabulary affects every part of the PTE, speaking, writing, reading, listening, the whole bunch. And if you have great strategies, great grammar, but weak vocabulary, it can actually lower your overall PTE score by 10 to 30 points. Okay, so tonight, let's look at some quick, easy ways to boost your overall score. It might also help, if you're not doing the Pearson test of English, it might also help your general academic English, things that you want to know. And if you want to jump in the chat and ask questions sometimes, feel free. Okay, so my name's Pam, and I teach English online. I help people prepare for the PTE test, and I'm a study abroad agent. So if you need help with planning how to study English abroad, you can watch my channel. But tonight, it's all about PTE, and it's all about PTE vocabulary. Okay, so why does vocabulary matter? Well, basically, first of all, vocabulary is scored across the board, right? You need it for your essay and for summarized written text. If you've got word variety, that boosts your score a lot. You need it in the speaking tasks. If you've got collocation use, do you know collocations? That means that you know how to put which words together. We'll look a bit more at collocations later in tonight's lesson. But PTE loves good collocation use. So if you can say things like take an exam instead of do an exam or give an exam, it sounds more formal, more correct. You'll get better points when you're speaking, when you're writing, when you're reading, when you're listening, the whole lot. So especially in PTE, doing the fill in the blanks section, in both reading and listening, when you have to fill in the blanks, if you know the correct collocation, the correct words that go together, that helps a lot. Okay, so let's keep going and look at the easy wins lists, ways to improve your score without too much stress, too much effort. Okay, there's three main things I want to teach you. One is learning some basic synonym swaps. Okay, if you can easily swap one word for another word because it has a similar meaning, then that's going to give you a richer style of speaking and a richer style of writing. Also, top collocations, like I've mentioned, collocations like knowing to say take an exam, putting take with exam. Knowing collocations is gold in PTE. So learning some of those. And also adverbs. If you can use adverbs like highly or strongly, these kinds of adverbs really will help boost your score. So let's work through them, starting with synonym swaps. So you want to avoid repeating common words. And some of the most common words that you'll need to use are good, bad, and important. So let's start with those. Can you guys think of any other ways to say good? Any other ways to say bad, or any other ways to say important? Because if you vary the way you do it, you're going to get points. I'm going to give you the chance to answer in the comment box. If anyone wants to, feel free. Feel free to ask me other questions too, but if you answer in the comment box, I can respond here. This is the good thing about lives. Okay, so good. Instead of just saying good, what could you say? You could say effective. You could say, yes, hello, simplified Islamic preachings. You've said nice. Yeah, okay. Now, nice is nice. Okay, nice is one of those words that has a fairly vague meaning in English, and so they don't like it in academic writing. They want you to be more specific. So a good substitute for good or nice would be to say effective. Effective means that something works well, okay? And so that's a bit more specific about how it's good. Effective. E-F-F-E-F. There, I'm typing it in the chat box for you guys so you can see it. See the spelling. E-F-F-E-C-T-I-V-E, effective. Beneficial and advantageous are other good ones. Beneficial, I'm typing all of these in for you. And advantageous. These are also good. Beneficial and advantageous mean almost exactly the same thing. They mean that they help whoever we're talking about, right? They give a benefit to, they give an advantage to. So beneficial, advantageous. And if you can pronounce advantageous with the correct syllable stress, that's gold for your speaking score too, right? PTE cares a lot about correct syllable stress in your speaking. And using bigger words gives you the chance to show it off. It also gives you the chance to get it wrong, so you need to make sure you're using it correctly. But if you do, bam, up with the vocabulary, up with the speaking as well. Okay, so instead of good, we're going with effective, beneficial, advantageous. Instead of bad, what could you say? You're going to need to use these words a lot, right? So you may as well have them. Instead of bad, you could say harmful. You could say problematic. Or you could say detrimental. Detrimental, okay? And hello, Keela. You said you're watching from South Australia. Oh, cool. You're from my country. I'm in Japan now. I live in Japan, but I'm from Queensland. So nice to meet you, Keela. And you're sitting the PTE exam soon for your PR visa. Ooh, fingers crossed. Yeah, good luck. Good luck. Please, if you have any questions, write in. And Simplified Islamic Preachings has written immoral instead of bad. That's again, that's very specific. You would want to make sure that you are using immoral to talk about if something is bad in terms of ethics or morality. Okay. Usually in PTE, you're not talking about things like that though, right? You're usually talking about if it's bad for your health, bad for the environment, these kinds of things. So you would be better off saying smoking is harmful for your health or detrimental to your health instead of saying bad for your health. Yeah. Carbon or excessive carbon dioxide is problematic for the environment, is detrimental to the environment. You wouldn't really say these things are immoral. Immoral is just if you steal from someone, for example. All right. Okay, so Game Boy Megatron, you guys have great names here, says, even though how much practice reading fill in the blanks, still not getting the score of 79 plus. Yeah, Game Boy Megatron, if you want to get 79 plus, you're really probably needing to work on your general English. You can't get it just from strategies. I'm sorry. So practicing and practicing is going to waste your time. You need to build your English, specifically the kind of English that you use in academic situations. So focus on formal, correct English, and that'll get you there. Now, if you're specifically wanting to improve reading, fill in the blanks, watch my 2 videos. If you go onto my YouTube channel, you can see I've got a video for every single question type. And for reading, fill in the blanks, one of the most important things is learning collocations. I will have a PTE book coming out soon with a shortened list of the top collocations, but I'm telling you some here tonight. So stay with us here tonight and I'll give you some. But PTE, Pearson themselves, has a huge list of collocations for you. There's too many to memorize. So that's why I'm making shortened lists of the most important ones. But, you know, if you Google top useful collocations or top collocations in academic situations, that will help. Okay. All right. So tips and tricks, says Game Boy Megatron. Yeah, tips and tricks. That's watch my 2 videos. That's the best I can do. I'm not really about tricks though. I think to get to 79 plus, it requires some strategy, but also a lot of English. So the fill in the blanks, the other tip and trick I would recommend is if it's the reading and writing fill in the blanks, you know, if it's the one where you have to choose from the words at the bottom instead of just a drop-down list, in that case, you need to also consider the context of the whole passage. So make sure that you read the first sentence and the last sentence of the passage so you understand the overall context instead of just answering. You know, usually we just go straight to the question and try and guess the next word. For reading fill in the blanks, that works, but for reading and writing fill in the blanks, you need the whole context. Okay, King Harlan Vlogs is saying, how can I improve my listening? I'll do a whole live on that for you at some point, King Harlan. Right now we're looking at vocabulary, which will improve your listening and everything else as well. Okay, so we already looked at some synonym swaps. Yes, some different words you can use instead of good and bad. You should also be going around thinking of other simple words that you will always need in the PTE and what you can say instead. So for example, think about describe image. You are going to need to say increase and decrease many, many times. So if you repeat and repeat and repeat increase, decrease, it's a very limited range of vocabulary. How else can you say increase? How else can you say decrease? Think about it. Write it in the comment box. If you've got a range of words to go to for these common things that you need to say, it's going to help a lot. So what can you say instead of increase? Anybody? You could say, shall I give them to you? You could say go up. Okay, it's a simple one. You could say rise. Now these are simple, but at least you're not repeating the same word over and over again. Then if you want to say strongly increase with different words, you could say things like surge. Surge means increase a lot. You could say skyrocket, increase a lot. You could say soar, which is like fly high, increase a lot. All of these are great ways to use synonyms instead of the basic word increase, increase, increase over and over again, okay? Oh, Daniel, hello, thank you. You've said every time I have the opportunity, I watch your videos and I think they're great. Yay. I think I have a lot to learn about listening and repeating. Repeat sentence. It can be hard to remember it even, can't it? Yeah. And you're in Sioux City, Iowa. Cool. I wonder what time it is there. I'm here just outside Tokyo, Japan, and it is 7:13 p.m. here now. Okay. All right. So increase, we got some synonyms for, so let's get some for decrease. And like I said, memorize these, repeat them over and over again, you know, do little flashcards of them. You don't need synonyms for every word in the world, but good, bad, increase, decrease, you should at least have a bank of different words for those. Okay. And it is 5:13 a.m. in the USA and you're watching. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, Keela, good. You have put in expand. Yeah. Expand is often a synonym for increase. So increase means go up, expand means grow. So they're often used, you know, we'll talk about the economy. It's better to say the economy is growing or the economy is expanding rather than the economy is increasing, right? We usually talk about the general size of it. It's growing, it's expanding. But if we increase, like we'll talk about profits. The profits increased, the sales increased. Okay, so that would be go up, rise, things like this. For decrease, you could say go down. You could say fall. You could say drop. Simple, simple, simple. But again, if you are giving, you know, an answer to describe image or retell lecture or an essay, the important thing is to have a range, right? You're getting scored on your vocabulary range. But if you want high-level vocabulary, you could use words like plummet, vroomf, which means fall straight down, decrease a lot, okay? Collapse. Yeah, actually collapse might be better as a synonym for shrink. like the economy shrank, the economy collapsed. Profits plummeted, profits fell, profits dropped. You could also use this word, which I love. I think it's cute. Dwindle, dwindle. Okay, it means it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and kind of almost disappears. Okay, so if you memorize these and any others that you have, and you just take them with you, it gives you confidence that you can not just say good, bad, increase, decrease, which will come up in every single PTE test in multiple questions there. Yeah. And Abdul Latif Mohammed, hello from Sydney. I'm so pleased to see so many of you from my country, Australia. And I hope that you get the visa and or university entrance that you need. Thank you for watching. And Daniel is saying, when I listen to you, I understand perfectly. But when I listen to the natives here in America, it is very difficult to follow the conversation. They cut off the words a lot. Yeah, we do it in Australia too, Daniel. But yeah, I have a clearer speaking voice for many reasons. You know, my family background is Czech, so I had to speak clearly so my grandparents could understand me. But honestly, I think you chose well to do the PTE test, because PTE doesn't usually give you a lot of crazy, difficult accents to listen to, does it? If you guys have ever tried to do the IELTS test, IELTS focuses very much on making sure that they cover many, many different regional accents. So the listening can be really tough in IELTS, I think. PTE is generally more standard. Okay. Kilagamu has written below par. Are you giving me a synonym for something there, Kilagamu? Below par could be a synonym for bad, if we're going back to when we were talking about bad. If something is below par, that means below average. Okay. Fall below par. Yeah, okay. So if you're talking about decrease, yeah, you need a verb. So fall below par or falls below average. You could use that. Okay, so that's one thing I want you guys to do, is to memorize chunks of synonyms for good, bad, increase, decrease. Also look for some synonyms for big, important. Yeah, big and important. All of those 6 words. Check out some synonyms, memorize them, use them again and again, and then they will come up in the PTE exam. Okay, next, let's move on to collocations. Do you guys all know collocations? If you're preparing for PTE, you should and must know what collocations are. I'm typing it in the chat box. Collocations are words that go together. So, for example, why do I say, like I said, why do I say take an exam? I could say have an exam, make an exam, sit an exam, give an exam. There's many possible verbs, right? But the generally best collocation is to take an exam if you're a student. Do an exam is also acceptable. Sit an exam is also acceptable. But I find many of my students from many countries, actually, but especially people who speak Hindi and Urdu and other South Asian languages, like to say give an exam. And in standard, I'm sorry, but in standard English, it would usually be the teacher gives the exam, the student takes the exam. So people will misunderstand you if you use, oh, I'm giving a PTE exam tomorrow. You're taking it. Yeah, the test center is giving it to you. So collocations are things like this, where you've got words together and there's no grammatical reason, there's no logical reason. They just go together in English and you just have to memorize them. Okay, so this is one of the times when I actually recommend memorizing sets of them. If you can make flashcards, that works really well. Like use Quizlet, the online flashcard maker to make it a game, or go old school, go old fashioned and make paper flashcards and test yourself. But you should have, you know, the word, for example, exam on one side, and then on the other side, take an, so that you can remember the collocation. Now, in PTE, you need a lot of academic collocations. So, for example, they'll talk about research, because that's what people do in academic world. So, do you guys know any collocations that go with research? So, do I take research, give research, make research, do research? What do I do? What's the correct collocation for that one? And I'm going to say, you can say do research. That's acceptable. That's fine, do. But take, give, make, no. Do research is okay. But what's another one that sounds better and that is more common? Yep, simplified Islamic preachings. Your name is too long. But yeah, I'm going to call you preachings. Preachings, do, good. Yep. So another one you could use is carry out. Nice phrasal verb for you. We carry out research. And it means do research, okay? But we often carry it out. So you can imagine if you are doing reading and writing, reading, fill in the blanks, or listening, fill in the blanks. If there's a blank space between carry and research, you now know it should be carry out research. You'll easily be able to fill that in, right? So this is an example of how useful collocations are, because PTE uses them a lot. They will have, let's say in the fill in the blanks questions where you've got maybe 5 blanks, usually 2 of them at least can be answered just by knowing collocations. Okay, so carry out research. What else? What else? Let me give you another one. If I say threat, yeah? So again, commonly used in PTE readings and listenings, we'll talk about things that are a threat to the environment, yeah? So what would it be? What verb would we use with a threat? If I gave you a sentence like, let's see, microplastics, something a threat to your health. Microplastics, well, let's just say plastics. Plastics, something a threat to your health. What verb could you use? Okay, now Kilagamu has written in carry out research. Carry out, well done, Kilagamu, but carry out research, not research. Okay, research is not countable. It just, there's so much of it, we cannot count it. So you don't need in front of it. If you want to talk about some specific research, you would say carry out a piece of research maybe, or carry out some research on this topic, carry out some research on, I don't know, the effect of plastics on the environment. Okay, XYZ says, ma'am, how can I improve my score in retail lecture and summarize spoken text? Okay, okay, firstly, I want to say, I hope you guys are watching my videos, because I do have videos on those too, and I will try and go on deep dives and do these for all of them at some point. But the quick thing I want to tell you now is I've noticed with retail lecture, when I teach students, that the biggest problem they have is when they're taking notes, they take too many notes. So they're sitting down frantically trying to write down everything that the person says. And then they don't have the time or the mental space to give like the main idea of the lecture. Now for retail lecture, the most important thing you need to do is to give the main idea. PTE doesn't really care about all of the details for that question. What they want is to know that you understood the main idea. And you can tell that because you've only got 40 seconds to speak in retail lecture. You've got a fairly shortish lecture, and then you have 10 seconds to think and 40 seconds to speak. So there is no way that you have time to even go into detail and give all the details, right? So what I found is most effective with most of my students is to stop taking notes, try and listen to the first 2 or 3 sentences without taking any notes, and then maybe start writing. Okay, at that point after, because you'll hear the main idea usually repeated in the first 3 sentences. And when you hear that main idea and when you understand it, then you can relax a little bit, because when you give your 40-second response, you say the main idea first, and then anything else you can catch is just a bonus on top of that. Okay, so let us go back to what were we talking about? Collocations. We were talking about different collocations and how that's going to improve your vocabulary. And we already learned carry out research. Okay, another one is something a threat. And Kilagama was saying propose a threat. You're so close. You're so close. Propose means suggest a threat. So maybe no, right? I want to recommend pose. Pose a threat. Okay. So if I say plastics pose a threat to the environment, what I mean is plastics are dangerous for the environment, right? So if something poses a threat, it goes together. We don't usually say it gives a threat or it has a threat, or there's a lot of other verbs that logically could make sense, but we don't use them. We use pose a threat. So remember that, okay? It's another one of those really useful ones that comes up again and again and again in academic language. Okay, so that was collocations. There are many, many more. Obviously, you could learn them for years. Let me just give you maybe 2 more collocations that I think you should memorize. One is play a role. Okay, let's see. Smoking cigarettes plays a role in bad health. It's a terrible example, but I just want you to memorize play a role, play a role. So it's, again, if you get that fill in the blanks question, play is the verb you need with a role. And last one I want you to remember is, I think, let's say, yep, raise awareness. A lot of people get that one wrong too. Okay, so there are some questions coming through. Let's see. Bharath Kumar says, for summarized group discussion, I'm not able to get a good score. With the template, it is even more difficult. I'm sorry, Bharath Kumar. But I'm wondering, how do you know? Are you getting your scores from one of those apps? Because the apps don't score the same way that Pearson scores. So I want to keep repeating to everyone, apps are great. Like, I recommend to my students all the time to use things like Alpha, PTE, and Garuli, and all of the different apps. Great, use them, but understand their limitations. They cannot give you a score that is similar to what Pearson will give you. They just can't, because Pearson do not release the algorithm. So you can't really trust the score. So if you want the most accurate score that you can get, well, firstly, it's going to be from a real Pearson mock test. If you go to their actual website, that's the best way, but that's expensive and you can't keep doing it all the time. So the next thing I want to recommend is use ChatGPT. Honestly, I found it gives a more accurate scoring than most of the apps out there. You have to prompt it correctly. I'll include some detailed prompts in my book, but still, you guys can probably figure it out. If you talk to it back and forth, it will give you some decent scoring. If you say, you know, how would you score this? It's better. All right, so anyway, summarized group discussion. I think I did a deep dive on that 2 weeks ago, and I also gave a short strategy video on that 3 or 4 weeks ago. So please go back and look if you haven't already. And if you're still not getting a good score, then I'm sorry. The only thing I can do to help you is my book, where I go even deeper into it, or private coaching if anyone wants. Okay, so let me keep going. We did synonym swaps. We did collocations. The next vocabulary thing I want to recommend for you is adverbs. Adverbs make your spoken English and your written English more precise. And again, there's something that you'll find often in those fill in the blanks kinds of questions. So let's say we want to use the word effective. Now, you could say that something is very effective. Okay. But what could you say instead of very? Because you're going to repeat very, very, very all the time. Instead of very, what could you say? Any ideas? And this is another one of those like collocations, right? Because you can start thinking things like strongly effective, but that's not natural in English. So you want for effective, you want highly effective. And if you memorize that together, boo, score up, okay? Highly effective. How about accepted? Yeah, if I say that, I don't know, different kinds of behaviors are blah, blah, accepted in my country. Yeah, so for example, drinking is not accepted in many countries, but where I live here in Japan, it is accepted. What can I say? Very accepted? Can you give me anything better? Nobody guessing. I'm going to tell you. Okay, so I would say widely. Widely accepted would be the natural collocation, the natural adverb to use. So widely accepted, widely accepted. Drinking is widely accepted in Japan. Okay, how about for common? Okay, if something is becoming more and more common, what could you say? Yeah, I might say the use of social media is common among young people nowadays. So I could say increasingly common. Okay. Now, simplified preachings, hello, you're saying, why not highly accepted? And there is no why for these kinds of things. I'm sorry, English is just crazy, and you just have to accept. Look, sometimes I can give you logic for grammar, and sometimes there's logical patterns for these things. But what I'm telling you with what we're learning tonight, there's no particular reason for it. It just is. It's just natural. It's just what seems right in English. So what you have to do if you want to get a better score is just memorize that we usually say widely accepted. And I guess the reason maybe you can think about it is because many, many people, right? So that's wide. People are not stacked on top of each other. They're spread out. It's widely accepted. But we say highly effective. And we say increasingly common, okay? Yeah, the use of mobile phones is increasingly common. Thank you, Abdul Latif Muhammad. Yeah. And Kilagamu has said quite effective. Yeah, you can use quite effective in many cases, all right? Quite is a nice multi-purpose word that will sound formal in many situations. So you can use quite very often. But again, the more specific you get with your vocabulary, the higher your score will be. So if you use quite effective, it'll give you this many points. If you use highly effective, it'll give you a bit more. And yes, increasingly common, Kilagamu. Good. Okay. So guys, let's try an activity, okay? I'm going to take a plain sentence and I want you guys to try and upgrade it with fancy vocabulary, okay? So let me give you technology excuse me, I'm typing it in the chat box again. Technology is good for people. I'm not sure if I agree with this sentence, but anyway, nice, simple, clear sentence. But can you upgrade it with vocabulary that would boost your score in the PTE? Try in the chat box. And I think we get a bit of a delay with this chat box here. So I'll keep talking until you do it. I want you to try and upgrade that sentence. Technology is good for people. What could you do? And while you are thinking, I am going to give you another one. Pollution is bad for health. Okay. See if you can upgrade either of those sentences, and you'll see how useful this is. Kritika Kumar says hi. Hi back at you. Okay. Anyone want to try my task? No? Or maybe you're trying and the delay is slowing us down. So I'm going to give you one more question. Let's see. What can we do? How about this? Computers help people work. Computers help people work. So you've got three sentences in the chat box that are using very simple vocabulary. Your task is to try to upgrade the vocabulary and see if you can do it and still keep the sentence correct and meaningful. Okay, so yay! My friend Simplified Islamic Preachings has it changed technology is good for people to technology is important for people. Yeah, that's a small upgrade, okay? But do you remember, if you go back and think about the beginning of our lesson, I gave you some synonyms for good that would be even better than that. Can you remember those synonyms? Go back and look in the old chat box and you'll find them. Okay. Aman Mohammed says, I only lack behind essay. Can you provide an easy way to write an essay in any topic? Yes, I can. If you go to my YouTube channel, I've got 3 videos on essay writing. They're old videos, but they are still 100% relevant. You can still use the exact strategies that I've mentioned in the new PTE and they will work. And I think they're very, very simple, very, very basic strategies. I am going to go into a deep dive on how to increase your score even more than that in a future lesson. But if you want something that is going to really help with your structure and your essay content score, then my videos are good for that, okay? Because they're not relying on crazy, weird templates. It's just simple, basic academic structure, bam, bam, bam. And if you follow that, it will work. Okay, Simplified Islamic Preachings. Technology is advantageous for people. Good. That's better, okay? That would give you a boost with your vocabulary. All right, let's see. For that sentence that I wanted you to upgrade, technology is good for people. Simplified Islamic Preachings, my friend, has given a good upgrade by saying advantageous instead of good. So that's already a bump up. Let me give you an even better one. Okay, you could say technology plays a crucial role in society because it's highly effective in saving time and improving communication. Okay, now, of course, I've given extra information. I've given because, blah, blah, blah. But can you hear how I've used some of the vocabulary I taught you earlier tonight? Technology plays, and even if we, instead of crucial, if we just say technology plays an important role. But remember I told you, try and memorize some other words for important. Crucial means important, and crucial sounds fancier. So crucial. Technology plays a crucial or important role in society. I'm typing it in the chat box as we speak because it is highly effective in saving time and improving communication. Bam. So not only are you going to boost your content score because you've given a reason instead of just a statement, but you're also going to boost your vocabulary score because you've got plays a role, which is great collocation. PTE loves that. You've got highly effective, another great collocation. PTE loves that. And if you could remember crucial instead of important, another vocabulary boost. Okay, so simplified Islamic preachings is saying pollution is harmful for people and it could bring major health issues in the society. Good. Okay, so you've upgraded my basic sentence, pollution is bad for people, by using the word harmful. Good for you. Harmful is much better than bad. And you've added extra information, which could be good here, right? What did I have for this? Here's another way. Pollution poses a serious threat to public health. And you could go on with more, like, because it significantly increases the risk of respiratory diseases. You could go on and on and on. But the key point I want to make here is I've used pose a threat, okay? And I've also put in serious, poses a serious threat, showing that I know the collocations that are necessary there. Now, what was the third basic sentence that I gave you guys? Computers help people work. Is anyone trying that one? Let's see. What did I have for that? Computers are highly effective. Highly effective is so useful, guys. Use it again and again. Highly effective tools that increase productivity by streamlining tasks and improving workplace communication, or whatever you're going to say. That stuff is not important. What is important is that we've used highly effective and that we have given some more detail. Yeah, computers are highly effective tools that do what? Okay, good. So those are some examples of how you can fancy up your essay, your describe image, the way you speak when you give the summaries. Maybe you shouldn't worry too much about this kind of language, but certainly when you are giving describe image and your essay, you really should try and speak like this. Maybe with summarized group discussion, because that's a kind of trick question where it's you have to speak for so long that it's not really a summary, I think. But yeah, so for those three, using it, I think, is important. But knowing these collocations and synonyms and adverbs is also really, 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 really useful for the passive skills, for the listening, for the reading. It's really going to help you choose the correct answers for them. Okay, guys. So, hang on. Kilogama, who said pollution significantly increases serious threats to people and the environment. Very nice. Okay. Now, we do want to be careful to be exactly correct when we use fancy vocabulary, though. So remember, when you say threats, the verb that goes with threat is pose. So I don't recommend saying increase threats. I recommend saying pollution significantly poses, or pollution poses a significant threat. That would be good. Pollution poses a significant threat to people and the environment. Now, does it increase the threat? That could be okay, but you're being risky if you do that. And you don't want to take risks for PTE. They like it to be exact, right? It's a computer marking you. If you follow standard collocations, you will get a better score. Anyway, good job. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me here today. I post something every week here about PTE, whether it's a live or a video. And I'm also on Instagram. So I hope you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's the same name, at Neo English with Pam. I go live every Sunday on Instagram, and that's for general English more than for PTE. I do my PTE lives on YouTube and my general English lives on Instagram. And I post shorts there and shorts on YouTube too. So follow me everywhere. I've got a book on PTE coming out very soon. I'm running a bit late with it, but it'll be out very, very soon. If anyone is interested, you can just message waitlist to me. Maybe my email address is info@neo-english.com, and you can message waitlist to that, and I'll put you on the waitlist for when the book is ready, which will be in 1 or 2 weeks. It's really, really soon. Okay. Abdul Latif Mohammed says computers are highly effective tools that help people or students to study online. Beautiful. Wonderful sentence. Great. Okay. And Daniel, you're so nice, Daniel. Thank you. Actually, all of you guys, it's been a pleasure to be interacting with people here on YouTube. So I hope I see you guys around on Instagram and YouTube again in the future. And I wish you all the best of luck with your PTE. Okay, I'm going to go now. See you